Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a lightbox gallery called Fancy Box. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly head over to Safari and have a look at how this works. Well, basically it works on the basis that you have a series of thumbnails on the page, and then when people click on a thumbnail it grows and gets bigger, and the rest of the page sort of fades out to a colour of your choice. The colour at the moment is set to green. You can close that then and then click on the next image and it comes up. So that's the kind of gallery effect that we're going to be creating. So what this requires, if we just go and have a look in our files area, so if we just go and find our root folder here, so here's my root folder, the mini project one. Inside here I have a folder called gallery, and what you'll need is you'll need some thumbnails of the images. That's the ones that are going to appear here on the page. And my thumbnails are roughly around about 100 pixels. Sometimes they're 100 pixels by 100 pixels. That's roughly sort of a good thumbnail size. If you want them to be bigger than this, then you would make them, say for example, 150 pixels by 150 pixels. But you need to have thumbnail sized images. So that would have to be done in the graphics program. And then you would need the larger versions of those. So this is a much larger version of that thumbnail image. So for each image in your gallery you need two images. You need a small one and you need a much larger one. So make sure that you've got those set up first before you start this exercise. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch over to a page, a blank page that I'm starting with. So in this page what I've done is I've created a wrapper div, and I've set some CSS properties for that wrapper div. So I've made it 960 pixels wide and I've set it to center in the middle of the browser window by setting its left and right margin to auto. Inside of that div I then have another div called gallery. We just quickly go and have a look. Here is my wrapper div, and you can see inside of there is a div nested called gallery. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to put a table in here because I'm going to be using a table to sort of space and control my thumbnail images. So I'm just going to click inside the gallery div, make sure it's selected, go to insert panel window and say I want to insert a table. I want it to nest so it sits inside of the div called gallery, and I want it to be one row, so I want it just to go across like this, and I've got 6 images, so I actually want it to be 6 columns, and the columns come down. You could go, for example, with 2 by 3 would give you 6 as well if you wanted that kind of layout, so 2 side by side and then 3 down, that would give you that. Now I sort of work on the basis that my thumbnails are 100 pixels wide, so I know that if I've got 6 thumbnails then that really needs to be 600 pixels wide. I don't want any kind of border, so I set that to 0. I don't want any spacing. If you want to space out your thumbnails, so have a gap between them, then you can change the cell padding or the cell spacing. I'm just going to click OK to that, and that will insert a table. So that was all done in live view. Now it's easier to switch over to design view, because when we switch to design view we start to see the look of our table. So here it is here, and it also means that we can now start to go to the files panel window, open up our gallery folder that we've got, go to the small folder and start to drag and drop them in. So you can do this in design view. You can just drag and drop your images in. So here they go, one after the other. So we're just dragging and dropping all of these in to our table, and our table there shows that they're all nicely spaced out. If you want to come and pick up your table, you can do that by just coming down here to the tags and going to the one called table, and if you wanted a bit of gap between your thumbnails you could just come in here and say let's have a 5 pixel gap. So if we were to enter that, what it does is it creates a 5 pixel space between the thumbnail images. So that's what cell padding or cell spacing would do the same. Okay, so I'm happy with that for the moment. Now I had some placeholder text in here so that I could see the gallery div. Now I've got the images in the table in there, I don't need that placeholder text anymore, so I'm just going to highlight it and just backspace to delete it. The next thing you need to do is hyperlink each of your thumbnails to the bigger versions that you have sitting inside of the large folder over here. So I've selected my thumbnail image, I come down to my properties inspector down here, and it's got a link box, and I can click the little folder next to link and say that I want it to go to the large folder, and because this is a cars thumbnail I want it to go to the cars larger image. Then you just do that for each one. So if I go to link, make sure you do get the right folder. So don't click this one because that's the source of the thumbnail images. We actually want to hyperlink the second folder down to pick up where the bigger version is. So I'm just doing each one of these. So let's click on the next image, so Ratatouille, and and that will go into large. So I'm just going to do those four will do, but you get the idea. You would do the rest and continue with that. Okay, the next thing that you need to make sure that you have somewhere in your root folder. So my root folder here is called mini project. Inside that root folder you need to have this file here called fancyboxgallerycode.txt. That's a text file that contains the code that allows us to create this gallery. So make sure you do have that copied into your website's root folder. When you do, and you come over to your files area, you'll see, if I just close down some of these folders, you'll see that I have fancyboxgallerycode.txt located here. If I double click that in Dreamweaver, it opens it up, and what I need to do is I need to copy all of this code here, so Control C or Command C, go back to my web page, switch to code view, working in the source code, and that needs to go between the head tags. So if I click on the opening head tag, you'll see the closing head tag. So anywhere between those two is where I now need to paste the code I've just copied from the text file. Well, here's my external style sheet that's attached to this web page. So I'm just going to click at the end of that and do a return and then paste, Control V or Command V to paste all of that code in. Now the other important thing that you need to make sure is that you also have this folder inside your root folder, and it must be sitting directly inside the root folder, not hidden away in any other subfolder, but this folder called Fancybox. Very, very important. This folder contains a load of CSS and JavaScript files that are needed for this gallery to work. And the code you've just pasted in is looking and linking to those JavaScript files that are located in a folder called Fancybox that is sitting directly inside your root folder. So there's my Fancybox there, and it has all of these files sitting inside of it. Okay, so let's just quickly preview in the browser and see what this looks like. So I'm just going to save that. So it's loaded up in the browser, and when I click these you'll see that it's working perfectly. So as we go through all of these different ones, there we go. We only did the first four, so number 5 doesn't work and number 6 doesn't work, so we never did those. Okay, so what can you change here? Well, you can change the color. So at the moment it's coming up with that green color, but if I click in here, for example, there's the green color. Look, it comes up and shows us. I can come in here and I can say, actually I want that to be 000. So that will be black. So if we now preview in the browser and save the changes, what happens now is we get this sort of black well, it's a very light grey at the moment, but black kind of effect coming up. Okay, so what's causing that? Well, that's the overlay opacity. So this works on the value of, it goes from 0 to 1. So the closer it is to 1, this number, the more dense the colour is. So let's try that. Let's put that up to 0.8 and then let's preview in the browser. So what you'll see this time is that it's not so see-through, it's not so transparent. We get a more solid black colour and it hides more of what's going on in the background. So those are effects that you can change directly within the code that's on your page to create the look of that you want to match in with your colour scheme. So the other thing that you need to remember is that here we've got a div called gallery, and in this JavaScript it's very important that the div is called gallery because it will only work with a div called gallery. If your div was called something else, say your div was called lightbox, that's not a problem. All you need to do is remember to come here to the code that we pasted in and change that to say lightbox as well. So it needs to match up with whatever the div is called that contains the thumbnail images. We'll just preview that in a browser just to make sure that that is still working, and it's still working. So there we go. So that's how you create a lightbox gallery called Fancybox.